The opinions, views, and conclusions expressed in this show are those of the show host and co-host and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of KPFV FM or its affiliates.
The Nevada Republic Education Network brings you the unfiltered truth, the real history, the facts without the lies you were taught in school. Here are your teachers, Gary Wayne and Michael John.
OCO Toy 2. Hello, how are you this Friday evening on the 29th of October? We are back. 2 weeks of being down. We're back at now. So, this is the 29th of October in the year of our Lord God, 2021. The rebirth of the kingdoms of God on earth. Welcome to the people within the Nevada Republic. We the people, the children of God. Welcome to the unknown truths on N REN, Nevada Republic Education Network, part of the Nevada Republic Common Law Private Members Association, where you are able to retain your rights under a common law membership contract. I am your host and divine teacher of truth, Gary Wayne. And next week, I hope to have another divine teacher from Las Vegas being a co-host, call-in co-host. And we'll see how that works next Friday. The Unknown Truths is also looking for people, groups, parents that would like to speak out on local, national, or worldwide matters. Did you give up your job for your medical rights? Are you fighting any of the Nye County private corporate offices? Were your rights violated? Call us at 775-990-4900. We'll arrange a special rant show for you. The unknown truths are for the people that are seeing that something is wrong and want to know the hidden truths. If you have opened your minds, then we can put you on the path of the truth. This is the mission given to us by God, the education of His children on earth. First, you need to know that the Articles of Confederation and our Declaration to the King, the States of America united within a confederation of independent sovereign republic states, not just one republic and not a democracy. The law within the 49 corporate states, and that's what we are. We're corporate states ever since the Civil War. And these corporate states are owned by the United States, which is a Scottish corporation, which was, thank you to Abe Lincoln and Queen Victoria, they put together the United States of America Incorporated. So the common law of England in Nevada Territory, it's NRS 1.030. Look it up. Not the corporate code, statutes, and regulations from the foreign city state of the District of Columbia. Yes, it's been a foreign enclave since 1871. It's been verified by the Supreme Court. District of Columbia has been jointly ruled between the Vatican and the British Crown. Thanks to the dictator and traitor, Abe Lincoln, collapsing the Union Confederation on March 27, 1861, Abe Lincoln sold out the States of America Confederation to the new, now this is United States of America. Anytime you see a capital on United, a capital letter, the capital U on United, or United in all capitals letters, it's a corporation. So now we have the United States of America Incorporated. The CEO of this corporation was Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom. And the president of the corporation was Abe Lincoln. Then came General Order 100, martial law, 1863, followed by the Act of 1871. Ever since then, a foreign corporation has ruled the foreign enclave of the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia was incorporated in 1871. The 50 states are now federal territories. That's why we fly a military flag, because the military controls the territories under its exclusive jurisdiction. So basically, you say there's three reasons. We're either active war, which we say we are, national emergency, martial law, and in fact, we're a corporate government of a corporate territory. So their military battle flag flies, not the proper flag of the corporation. I mean, of the common law constitutional government. Every corporate state has been admitted into the United States corporation since March 27, 1861. There has not been a lawful common law republic state. There are actually, and Obama said this, 57 corporate states within the United States. Now, the United States is all capital letters, corporation. And at least 3 foreign sub-corporations known as the corporate state of Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. All de facto governments, not lawful common law republics. So for your information, try to stay out of the foreign enclave of the District of Columbia. If you do need to go, know the International Bill of Rights, the phone number for the UN Attorney General's office, or the Vatican Legal Office, because that's who you should call to get out of there. The unknown truths about the United States corporate bankruptcy. You didn't know that, did you? We came out of the last bankruptcy in 1999. So if the corporate government is bankrupt again, who is the trustee? This is answered for us by the Vatican Corporate Congressional Record of March 17th, 1993, PH 1303. And the following is from that record. Mr. Trafficant asked and was given permission to revise and expand his remarks. Mr. Trafficant, the speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the United States corporate government. The United States corporate government is in bankruptcy, and Congress are the trustees. It is a legal maxim that a bankrupt is civilly dead. That means Congress cannot legally make positive law on bankruptcy because they have no legal standing. The IRS cannot collect or receive any money or issue any money lawfully. The federal government, corporate government, U.S. Code Title 28, you should look this up, U.S. Code Title 28, Section 3002, 15A, has been in bankruptcy, Chapter 11, from 1863 to today, and sits at the pleasure of the Commander-in-Chief, General Order 100, martial law, waiting to do his bidding. The last bankruptcy ended in 1999, and we are starting over in another bankruptcy. Now remember, now it says here the Commander-in-Chief. The Commander-in-Chief at this time is not Joe Biden, but is Donald Trump. Because, well, we'll go further on that later, but you ask, how could this happen? In 1861, due to this northern aggression against the lawful Confederate States of America, remember, our first Constitution is the Articles of Confederation. 7 republic states walked out of the Congress for the States of America and their Confederation on March 27th. Yes, they have that right. Lincoln refused to recognize this new Confederation of Southern Republic states. Because of his refusal, there was not enough members for a quorum. There would have been enough if he would have accepted the new Confederation of Southern Republic states. So the Congress was adjourned without setting a reconvening date for the remaining member republic states still within the States of American Confederation. And under international treaty law, this action allowed for the States of America Confederation to be abolished. There was no reconvening date. So the States of American Confederation was abolished. Abe Lincoln is now a president without a government. Now comes Queen Victoria, and I know we've talked about this on other shows, how we found out by the North Carolina Constitution and the Paris Peace Treaty that King George never signed over the land. The land still belonged to the English. So now comes Queen Victoria. She knows she owns the land under the law, under treaties, and offers Abe a deal he couldn't resist. They formed a British Crown Corporation called the United States of America Incorporated. And you can check Delaware State Corporation papers. You'll find out the last time the United States of America Incorporated filed papers was in 1989 as a nonprofit religious organization. So Queen Victoria as the CEO and Abe Lincoln as the president, Lincoln became a traitor, not a hero. Now the corporate president calls for a national emergency for the remaining republic states and offers them a deal. He handpicked his board members from the unlawful United States of America Incorporated, Congress, and Senate. So now he instituted a corporate military martial law under his state of emergency. A lawful Congress or Senate has never been reconvened under the Articles of Confederation, nor the 1787 Constitution for the States of America. Now the traitor Lincoln is the president of a British Crown Corporation, the new British States of America, and the commander of a British corporate military. Within these newly formed states, reinforced by Irish and German troops. Yes, we had Prussian troops again, and we had a lot of Irishmen that were in the British Army that were offered jobs working for this new British corporation. In fact, if you know about the Civil War history, you know the state of Missouri, who tried to maintain a neutrality, was invaded by these Union German troops. Congress still sits today under the British American military authority by order of the President and the blessing of the Vatican. This was accomplished through General Order 100, the Lieber Code of 1863. The commander of this British American military to this day is, the present commander, is Donald Trump, not the Chinese Communist Party corporate president known as Joe Biden. Have you not wondered why so many retired military officers and non-coms are running for a Congress or Senate seat? The military wants to keep control. In the lawful Nevada territory, the military still controls this British corporate state. Only a lawful common law constitutional Congress can admit a territory or republic into the States of America Confederation. No state can be divided to make a state. Read the Articles of Confederation. No corporate president, nor under martial law can a statehood be granted. All states since March 27, 1861 have not been granted lawful statehood. They are only corporate states. Now, with the 57 amount, that means the states that were in existence on the mainland and the 7 territories. That's how they come up with 57. Within the British Crown, Scottish Corporation of the United States and its subcorporations, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. The United States military commands Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa military. So keep in mind that this lawyer just wants to make, well, number one, he's a lawyer. If he has a bar association card, that means he's a member of the British Accreditation Registry and he's a foreign agent. He must register as a foreign agent. But you can't make a state into a state. Now, what he's going by is the corporate constitution. Because the only the constitutions you can have right now are the Constitution of the United States. Those are corporate constitutions, not lawful. It only pertains to corporate entities. So Traitor Lincoln also funded this Northern British Army of aggression against the lawful Confederate States of America entirely by issuing war bonds, T-bills, which essentially put what was once the States of American Confederation into bankruptcy in 1863. And one of the funding schemes used was the so-called 1040 bonds. So does that ring a bell? These bonds were to run not less than 10 years, nor more than 40 years. And get this, at a 7.13% interest. That seems pretty good back in those days. That sounds pretty good right now. To collect the interest on these 1040 bonds, a Form 1040 was used by the new corporate government. By 1864, the value of these bonds had dropped to 39 cents on the dollar. Now you understand why the Nevada Territory was illegally brought into the British United States of America Incorporated because of the gold and silver. In 1861, the Congress, the Board of Directors of the United States of America Incorporated, created the first Bureau of Internal Revenue to collect the interest on those 1040 bonds. The present IRS was formed in the corporate state of Delaware in the 1920s as a private collection company. And you can look that up. You can go to their Secretary of State page. And you can see all the different corporations. They can show you that the CIA, I think, was incorporated in the last one was 1989 also. 14th Amendment for the USA Corporation, 1868. Remember, a private corporation. The 14th Amendment for the USA Corporation was passed while under martial law and therefore did not need to be properly ratified by the USA corporate states because the corporate states were now under the USA corporate federal government under martial law. And the corporate states changed their state constitution contracts to reflect the change in order to be admitted to the new Union of Corporate States. This is why the 16th Amendment for the USA corporate income tax did not need to be properly ratified, since it too was passed by a foreign corporate Congress exercising their unlawful powers backed by the corporate military. Now, the 14th Amendment for the U.S. corporation applied to citizens. Every corporate person born or naturalized in the United States of America Incorporated and subject to its jurisdiction is a corporate citizen. A United States citizen is a subject property of the corporate federal government. Their name is spelled in all capitals. Those citizens have only civil and international rights, privileges, and immunities secured by the good faith and credit of the United States corporate government. Their corporate state nor federal constitution contracts protect them because they're a dead entity, technically. A United States citizen has the status of an artificial person. Thanks to the corporate Congress of 1864, they changed the meaning of that. Their name is spelled in all capital letters. When you contract to be a U.S. citizen, property of the U.S. corporate government via Social Security, you are basically co-signing for the debts of the corporate federal government. You are pledging all your income and assets to helping discharge the bankruptcy. But this is a null and void situation because you were not informed of this contract. Failure to disclose. That's like you weren't informed that they took your all capital name and they did another birth certificate out on it. And now they put it on the commodities market. Your birth certificate is a bond. It's worth some money. But you have to do with the U.S. Code, and that's at the age of majority. You're supposed to assume control over that all capital name. So rely on your inalienable rights secured by the Constitution for the states of America to protect you, not the United States citizenship you were taught that is unlawful. Null and void, it's a fraud. If you want to get real technical, you cannot be a sovereign and a citizen at the same time. You waive your sovereignty when you knowingly become a corporate citizen, a dead entity. A citizen always swears his allegiance to a government. You can only be one or the other. Sovereigns have inalienable rights given to them by God. Subjects have privileges, but they can only contract to be a corporate entity. But a dead entity cannot even do that. The American Republic state citizen is really not a citizen, but it is an individual sovereign. Their name is spelled in upper and lowercase letters. Most corporate government computers are now programmed to only accept all your names in caps. Also, if you use a middle initial instead of spelling out your middle name, that also creates a fictional person. Your whole name must be spelled out to be sovereign. It is basic English grammar. U.S. citizens, 14th Amendment for the USA Corporation. In the early days of North America, when you were born, your birth was recorded in the family Bible. And I got in trouble about that deal. My family Bible got destroyed. This showed you were under the jurisdiction of our Lord God, your Creator. Starting in the 1930s, when someone was born, they were issued a birth certificate from the corporate state. and this birth certificate was recorded in the corporate state records. After your birth certificate is recorded, it is sent to the corporate Department of Commerce. Now the corporate government is creating an artificial person and is just recording the birth of their property that they will control and use for generating tax revenue. This is done to create an employee of the United States corporation to help pay off the national corporate debt, since it is not legal or lawful to use private property to pay corporate public debts. So the United States Corporate Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 says that one of the powers of the United States government is to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several corporate states and with the corporate Indian nations, because the Indian nations are no longer sovereign entities. They're nothing but a corporate entity. And they messed that up in 1984 when they redid their constitutions. Now they're in Oklahoma. The unlawful state of Oklahoma wants to take their land. So if your birth certificate creates some corporate property, an artificial person of that corporate federal government resident in one of the 57 corporate states regulated in commerce, does the Code of Federal Regulations, the CFR, apply to you? Well, the United States Corporate Constitution, Article 4, Section 3, the corporate Congress shall have the power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States Corporation. So now we have a solution for solving these state problems. Can the state of emergency or martial law powers be terminated? Yes, they can. But there's a problem most people won't believe. The commander-in-chief can terminate the martial powers at any time. But it would not make any difference, because what lawful government would take over? Even your state governments are unlawful. You would have to have a whole new government and a new constitution. You'd have to dissolve the state corporation. In fact, any corporation within that state would have to be dissolved, including your sheriff's department with the corporation. They're not even a constitutional sheriff. Remember what happened in March 27th, 1861. First, a lawful common law constituted authority for the independent sovereign republic states would have to be put in power to replace the military power we are now under. We'd have to go back to the Articles of Confederation, and the present corporate governments would never go along with that. The states that were once independent sovereign republics before the Northern Corporate War of Aggression and were forced into the United States Corporation after laying down their arms and returning to their lands, the British Crown Corporation took control over the American lands once again. Now these once independent sovereign republics are now corporate states without rights, artificial entities. The United States corporate government has absolute power over these states engaged in commerce. Now the states would solve this enslavement by unincorporating and reclaiming their sovereign republic status. They can also do this by forming a statewide republic common law private membership association with residents signing a membership contract. And then you could join the North American Common Law Confederation. But then they would also have to give up corporate federal handouts and return to lawful coin, gold and silver, not these Federal Reserve IOUs. No longer able to accept the private bank's Federal Reserve notes. The price of true freedom is small compared to the high cost of lies. Now, you should read the Clearfield Doctrine. It'll tell you about this regarding Federal Reserve notes and a lawful currency. The Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form includes corporations becomes destructive of these ends, It is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their happiness and safety. July 4th, 1776. So you can do this by setting up your common law county assemblies, your common law county courts. The first thing you have to do is unregister to vote. Get out of that corporate voting system. That ain't you voting to begin with. So, FYI, when a state accepts federal subsidies, it also accepts exclusive federal legislation and regulation connected with those subsidies. The state at that time waives its sovereign status. Well, they've all waived it. The state is now a federal territory. See what I say? We're a federal territory. That's why we fly a military flag. And the transfer of legislative power from the state to the federal government creates the effect that the laws no longer have force or exist without notice. Any laws of the state are superseded by federal laws. This is why all state corporate constitutions were rewritten before 1968 to be a carbon copy of the corporate federal laws. They are federal laws. Your states are federal. You can go into a federal court. You don't have to deal with the state courts. Does this sound like your county has a constitutional sheriff or a lawful common law court if they receive federal funds? No. State laws that mirror federal laws may be brought in or removed to a federal jurisdiction district court under U.S. Code Title 28, Sections 1331 and 1441. Laws of Nevada Territory are laws of the United States Corporation. Actually, I should say they're bylaws. Now, here's a good one. The Alien Act of 1798. Now, this is one everybody should listen to. Congress delegated to their president virtually unlimited power to direct the conduct of nationals of hostile countries whenever the States of America should be engaged in a declared war or its territory threatened with invasion. Well, Texas is a territory, New Mexico is a territory, Arizona, California are all territories. Well, they're being threatened with invasion. The Alien Act obligated the president to make a declaration of a state of war or a threatened invasion, which entitles him to use these new powers. This power has not been put into action yet on the southern border invasion. Now, here's the thing. Trump knows darn well he's still the commander-in-chief, but he won't use the Marines to invade that foreign enclave of the District of Columbia or put troops along the southern border. Remember, the troops actually belong to the British government. It's the British paying for those troops. He is the British commander. He is still under control of the British Parliament and the so-called Queen. Actually, the king's there. They refused to crown him because they knew the British Parliament will all go to jail. Remember, the Vatican controls Congress, the Hill, Capitol Hill. Biden's working for the new Chinese Corporation of America, whatever their name is, but there's a new corporation. There's 3 corporations in the District of Columbia. But it's not being recognized by the British. British still control the military. They still control the White House. And the thing is, why didn't he do this when he first came in office? He could have straightened this whole country out and made it a constitutional government once again. He could have made it the States of America. He could have been a lawful president. And he still can be. As an interim president, straighten this country out. But what's he afraid of? I know King John III would give him the power. But Parliament won't crown King John. So in 1917, the war powers did not extend to citizens of the United States Corporation. And the de facto government did not have authority over us. But corporate President Roosevelt made an amendment to the 1917 Act of 1933. Yeah, he was a traitor, dictator. He was a communist. In Section 2 of the Act of March 9th, 1933, it states, subdivision, Section 5 of the Act of October 6, 1917 was amended, is hereby amended as follows. During time of war or during any other time of national emergency declared by the President may, through any agency that he may designate or otherwise investigate, regulate, or prohibit under such rules and regulations as he may prescribe by means of licenses or otherwise, any transactions in foreign exchange, transfers of credit between, or payments by banking institutions as defined by the corporate president and export, hoarding, melting, or earmarkings of gold and silver coin or bullion or currency by any person within the United States corporation or any place subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now remember, the District of Columbia is where the federal United States corporation is supposed to maintain. But once you take funding from them outside the District of Columbia, then they assume your territory. And that's how they are able to spread among the 50 states. Because you guys are taking these federal fundings, the federal reserves. By simply including in this amendment any person within the territories of the United States corporation or any place subject to the jurisdiction thereof, citizens of the United States corporation were now included in the definition of enemies of the United States corporation. Let's read that again. Citizens, 14th Amendment citizens of the United States corporation were now included in the definition of enemies of the United States corporation as far as any commercial, monetary, or business transactions were concerned. The United States corporate citizens were no longer any different from any other enemy of the United States corporation. Now, I know some of you heard about these FEMA camps and all that. Well, now you know why. They can round you up as prisoners of war. The corporation. Because you allowed your state guards to be nationalized by this United States corporation. You got to undo all these state national guards and put them back to state guards. Take the federal control away from them. Do not take any more funding. You need to get help for weapons. Well, go to a foreign country. Ask for help. Don't take nothing for this United States corporation. So to summarize, this act allowed the corporate government to take control of any and all commercial, monetary, and business transactions conducted by enemies within our continental borders. In other words, they can take your bank accounts, which they're trying to do. Section 5B of this act gave the corporate president unlimited corporate powers to control the commercial transactions of the defined enemies. Well, that's what they're doing now. In the amendment in 1933, the act was expanded to include any person within the United States corporate territories or any place subject to the corporate jurisdiction thereof. In other words, you were taking any federal funding, you're under their jurisdiction now. Remember, a person is a corporation. The people of the United States corporate territories then become subject to the powers of the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. They get you for treason. Note that the War Powers Act was also expanded to include national emergencies as defined by the corporate President Roosevelt did proclaim a national banking emergency. What is the CCP corporate President Biden doing? See, he's not lawful. There's been no agreement with the District of Columbia to bring in a third corporation, especially the Chinese. Biden's not representing the British. They don't want nothing to do with him. The military don't want nothing to do with him, but then we have some traitors within the military that sold out to the Chinese. And the Vatican, well, they sold out too. They became traitors. They're working with the Chinese to further their expansion into China. So the stock market had crashed in 1929, and a depression was in full swing. All the banks were closed for a bank holiday. Well, a long holiday. Now we have a new world order, pandemic, and the corporate President Biden wanting to control all bank transactions. See, history repeats itself. During his term of office, Dictator Roosevelt implemented hundreds of new national corporate programs under the guise of a national corporate emergency. Well, most of these programs are still on the books today because we still have an emergency in those areas. These areas include farming, banking, education, welfare, homeless. These emergency powers have been extended every year by the corporate president and are still in full force today. You should read the Bankruptcy Act, 1933. Very interesting. Now we have a Senate report, 93-549, July 24th, 1973, which said, since March 9th, 1933, the United States Corporation had been in a state of declared national emergency. Did you know that? How many years is it? 73, 40 years, right? 40 years the United States Corporation had been in a state of declared national emergency. These proclamations give force to 470 provisions of corporate federal law. This vast range of powers taken up together confer enough authority to rule this country without reference to normal constitutional process. Now you can understand why the military battle flag flies instead of the peacetime flag, the civil flag of 1799 that represents the States of America Common Law Confederation. Remember, the Articles of Confederation. You need to study those. So, national emergency, 40 years. If you studied about Roosevelt, you'd know that he was a dictator. He used a corporation to put the country and its people into a war that we didn't need to be in. He started that war. In fact, he was tried for war crimes after the war. And he was executed by way of poison. Now, we got a congressional record, March 9th, 1933, House Resolution 1491, page 83. Under the new law, the money is issued to the banks in return for the corporate government obligations, bills of exchange, drafts, notes, trade acceptances, and bankers' acceptances. The money be worth 100 cents on a dollar because it is backed by the credit of the corporate nation, International Monetary Fund. It will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of the people of the corporate nation. When in bankruptcy, there is no credit. Where is the standing? The United States government is a corporation. You can look this up. We said this once again. U.S. Code, Title 28, Section 3002, 15A. U.S. Code, Title 28, Section 3002, 15A. Now, just because it says federal corporation doesn't mean it's a government. Numerous Supreme Court rulings to verify this. Corporations are not governments, and governments are not corporations. This corporation has once again declared bankruptcy. This corporation had limited assets, so it created some assets, fictional persons, U.S. citizens, for collateral with the help of the Global Estate Trust, a.k.a. the Vatican, for the bankruptcy. The states also incorporated the United States and pledged their property as collateral also. You can go to governmentdirect.gov, and it will tell you that you do the calculation chart with your birth certificate, file number, and your year, month you were born. It's going to tell you how much bond money you have in there that the government set up for collateral so they can get loans. The assets of every United States citizens are pledged as collateral to cover the growing corporate federal government deficit. You own nothing. You don't even own the property. In fact, because in 1933, they did away with property ownership. You just rent from a corporate de facto government. If you pay a property tax or use tax on anything, then you do not own it, because if you do not pay the tax, they will take it away from you. You no longer have the inalienable right of property. The Constitution was converted into a trust, which is possessed by the King of Great Britain and the Holy Roman Church, the Vatican. Everything you think that you own actually belongs to the one who possesses the trust. The trustees are the corporate federal and state public officials, which means they are agents of a foreign power. They either work for the Vatican or they work for the Crown, the British Crown. All their sub-corporations, departments such as NASA, TSA, Department of Defense, the VA, the CDC, FDA, FHA, USPS, FEMA, NIH, etc., are also foreign agents and must register as foreign agents. And that's another thing Trump could do when he invaded the District of Columbia. He could arrest all of them because, most of them are not registered as foreign agents. So he can get them as being spies. The United States citizen is created property of the corporate federal government. All birth certificates are controlled around the world by the Global State Trust of Vatican. Now, we verified that because we used my wife's German birth certificate on that treasurydirect.gov. That's what it is, treasurydirect.gov. And we figured out how much money she had in that trust fund. Vatican controls all birth certificates around the world. So, which is also the United States Corporation. You unknowingly contracted to become this United States citizen. You unknowingly co-signed for all federal debts. Lack of full disclosure, remember this, because it's a contract. Lack of full disclosure makes it null and void. So you didn't know this was a contract. You didn't know you were contracting to them. So they have no lawful right. The only problem is you got to take it into international court to do anything unless the states set up lawful courts again. Right now, they're all corporate courts. So you can't win in these corporate courts. All statutes, rules, codes, regulations, taxes, licenses, permits of the state and federal governments apply only to fictional persons. Look at your driver's license. Your name's all capital letters. That's not you. And if they get you to admit to it, they're getting you to commit perjury. So residents such as the United States citizens, the corporate governments have no powers over a sovereign individual that the sovereign did not delegate to the government via the lawful common law constitutions of lawful state and federal authorities. That's why we have 2 passports in this country. You don't believe it? You read the UN Charter. It says it in the UN Charter that we will have 2 passports, one for American state nationals and one for their corporate citizens. A sovereign's property is exempt from taxation, except with a direct tax with a proportionment as mandated by the lawful common law constitution. There are 2 national flags, 2 passports, 2 post offices, 2 first class. Now, the 1787 Constitution for the United, all small letters, then it'll be capital S for States of America. So the proper name of this country is States of America. That's the proper Constitution. Constitution of the United States of America, all capitals or capital U and capital S. I mean, that's a corporate. That don't apply to you. That's not lawful. Are you a sovereign American of God or a United States corporate citizen, a fictional entity? Amendment 14. The choice is yours. You can still lawfully make that decision. The U.S. Code tells you how. The UN mandate requires it, along with the proper passport for sovereign Americans. Preamble. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United, with a small u, States of America. States of America is our name. Now, for reference, check the state of Delaware corporate registration site for the United States of America Incorporated. And this last filing they did was on April 19th, 1989. And where it says the entity type, it says religious nonprofit. Now, also the CIA was on, I saw the CIA and a couple other ones. So the freedom of choice. What will you choose? Liberty or slavery? Child of God or a corporate entity? Restore the kingdoms of God on this earth. And please join us weekly on the Nevada Republic Education Network, brought to you by the Nevada Republic Common Law Private Membership Association, where your God rights still exist. So, I hope that kind of gave you something to learn from. So, we got here a little evidence here that the pandemic was planned. In September 2019, right before the outbreak, the GPMP told the world to prepare for a global coronavirus outbreak. In 2017 and 2018, test kits for COVID-19 were distributed worldwide. Ain't that a little strange, huh? 2017, Fauci announced the pandemic to happen during the first term of Trump administration. 2 months before the outbreak, Bill Gates organized a coronavirus pandemic exercise. We talked about that before. In 2013, a song called Pandemic said, the 2020 coronavirus body stacking. It's funny, songwriters and producers know about this stuff ahead of time. In 2010, a scenario of the future described a pandemic with totalitarian control as a desired outcome. A 2018 video showed a pandemic starting in China, in the area of Wuhan. So see, it was all planned. Now, under U.S., here it is. I got under Legal Information Institute, the Cornell University Law School. I got to print out. Corporation cannot be sovereign governments, as they are fictions defined by words on a piece of paper. 28 U.S. Code, Section 3002. 15, United States means a federal corporation, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. Now they're referring to the corporation. So, there it is. And this is written by, there's a write-up by Judge Dale, a retired judge. He used to be an international treaty lawyer, one of the last constitutional courts we've had. So, a corporation is a fictional character or entity in law created by the government, which makes that fictional character or entity the intellectual property of the government. But you are never told that. Corporations can own any number of other corporations, but never own a flesh or blood human being. That's why they do that corporate entity, so they can own you. As corporations only exist on paper, well, your birth certificate bonds, that's what they put on the open market. They're both defined and bound by the law of contracts. More words on papers. In other words, corporations do not exist in the real world and cannot nod their head, shake hands, or utter any words of affirmation. If you have a corporation and you don't want to be controlled by these corporations, what you need to do is unincorporate, form a common law trust. You can enter that trust into the International Common Law Court in Brussels, Belgium, or Austria, or Italy. They got some big, nice courts there too. And then it becomes law. So the government, by becoming a corporator, lays down its sovereignty and takes on that of a private citizen. Yes, because they're not accepting lawful currency. It can exercise no power which is not derived from the corporate charter. And that's what these constitutions that you think you know, Constitution of the United States, are corporate charters. All corporate government entities use a private script, the Federal Reserve note, to do business. See, those notes are strictly for corporate transactions, not for lawful. And you look at it, it says legal tender, not lawful. So it's only for legal. And under House Joint Resolution 192, you can wipe out any debts that have been used with those legal tenders, Federal Reserve notes. You can wipe those or discharge those debts under House Joint Resolution 192. So, for purposes of suit, such as corporations are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. As such, government then becomes bound by the rules and laws that govern private corporations, which means that if they intend to compel an individual to some specific performance based upon its corporate statutes or corporation rules, then the government, like any private corporation, must be the holder in due course of a contract or other commercial agreement between it and the one upon whose demands for specific performance are made. In other words, if they don't have a contract with you, they don't have no jurisdiction. And what they say you signed or you acknowledge as a contract, well, wait a minute. They didn't do a full disclosure, so that's null and void. Contract don't exist. So they're lying to you once again. So the government must be willing to enter the contract or commercial agreement into evidence before trying to get the court to enforce its demands, called statutes. And you can find that in the Clearfield Doctrine. It's a Supreme Court ruling in 1942. Look that up. So when you go to court, ask to see the contract of jurisdiction over you. Without that, they can't go no further. These civil contracts were secured by and through several federal and state voluntary registration programs designed to convert and enslave flesh and blood American citizens of the Republic into corporate property. In other words, Federal Reserve, Social Security cards, you didn't know that was a voluntary deal. Your driver's license, that's a voluntary thing. You don't have to do a driver's license if you drive your own private property, but if you're working on a commercial, yeah, you got to have a commercial license. But for private property, no. Supreme Court verified that. You have the right to travel. That's what it's called. You're not driving. Driving is commercial. So you're traveling. You're a private person or a private vehicle, private property, traveling. That's what the Supreme Court says. You do not need a license. You need a commercial license if you're driving, contracting. So these civil contracts were secured by and through several federal state voluntary registration programs. Yes. These registration programs also involved in government benefits as an inducement. However, nothing is for free. And when the state and federal governments offer anything for free, you can bet that upon your acceptance, there are ropes and chains to be attached to your neck, hands, and ankles. Now, the thing is, even if it ain't free, they have to stipulate like a contract on that, and they don't. So an endorsement on the back should have that contract. And if they did a direct deposit to you, well, you didn't endorse that. Maybe the bank did, but not you. So the federal government, the bar, and the courts rely on the maxim that ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, no, because they're not the law. They're doing legal codes. So you know the law. The law says you weren't informed it was a contract. So there was no full disclosure. Because corporations can't pass laws. They can pass codes, statutes, regulations. That's it. And if you're not a corporate citizen, it doesn't pertain to you then. So when a person is arrested or sued for a statutory regulation, also known as a criminal or civil law, he is actually being accused of violating a corporate regulation or a corporate breach of contract. See? A civil contract only exists over human beings by deception and fraud. See, it's fraudulent. In fact, they break the law by enticing you. It'd be Title 18, Section 4. And then you get the Section 241 and 242. They're violating your rights. And that judge and the bailiff, anybody in that courtroom that doesn't protect you, can go to jail. So, there are no criminal laws in America. Rule 1 of the federal laws of procedure used to specify this very act. All laws are civil, which was later modified by the Judiciary Act to conceal this fact by creating one set of civil rules. And one set of criminal rules. But this never changed the fact there are no criminal laws in America. Yes, there's no criminal laws. And the law in this country is common law, too, by the way. The Judiciary Act was necessary once common people began to represent themselves in court and uncover this and other frauds. These rules of procedure and rules of court are originally designed and adopted to reduce confusion in these courts and were intended only for lawyers. However, this is not to say that the courts will not try to enforce them against non-lawyers. Now, I'm having a little problem with the court in Fort Smith, Arkansas right now regarding my dad and his trust. This new judge was an ex-attorney, so he's doing what attorneys would do, break the law. So I had to play a little game with him. So, just remember, King George never turned this land of America over to the Americans. It was in the Paris Treaty that way. North Carolina Constitution says that. And what happened? Queen Victoria came back and took possession of America once again with the help of Abe Lincoln. So yes, we are a British Commonwealth, you might say. In fact, that first flag that has the Union Jack in the corner instead of the stars, that's actually the flag we should be flying under this corporation jurisdiction, because we answer to the English. Why do you think we got in all those wars with the English? We were no different in Canada. We had to go rescue the crown, Parliament. Now, the laws, the statute in Montana says the common law of England and the laws of Parliament. Every state's a little bit different, but they all mean the same. Ours is very simple. It just says the common law of England. It's the law of this state, which is true. So, and unless there's an injured party, no reason to go to court, too. You should learn. Common law is common sense. It's the best type of law out there. You should learn this. And there's only one lawful common law court in the Nevada Territory. It's in the Nevada Republic, Common Law Court of Justice. So there is no legislation which prohibits a common man to practice law without a license, right? You don't need to be licensed. You don't even need to join the bar. But they've controlled it. But the thing is, their unlawful courts are corporate courts, so they can do what they want. What you need is a lawful common law court. Today, each judge representing a court of record is a lawyer and a member of the American Bar, British Accreditation Registry, Association Union. These are private member associations. And all these union judges have conspired to write a local rule of procedure prohibiting non-lawyers from their practice of law without a license. This practice protected their treason, insured for the union membership, and is openly in violation of federal antitrust laws. And I lay odds the majority of these lawyers are not registered as foreign agents. Now, I've talked about this before. There's an International Bill of Rights, and you should learn that one. Now, this International Bill of Rights was written by the American Bar Association out of the Washington, D.C. chapter, because that is a real good Bill of Rights. And you can use it in these prisons because they're all corporations. This is the one you want to use. It's better than, I think, our Bill of Rights when it comes to getting in prison. Your rights being jailed and all that stuff. So you want to think about that. And there's the international humanity laws. So knowledge is a very important thing. You need to quit believing these guys like Steve Bannon and the rest of these guys that call themselves patriots. They're nothing but corporate flunkies. They're pushing the corporate realm. They didn't want to go along with this other corporate hostile takeover. And they fly the corporate flag with the gold fringe. So don't believe them. There's no such election system in this country. Never been one since before the Civil War. It's a fraud. The whole thing's a fraud. Unregister to vote, assume control of your name, and get involved in this movement throughout the country. And if you're upset with this corporate government and instead of flying that battle flag upside down, fly the proper flag of the government, the common law government, constitutional government. Fly the U.S. civil flag. You can buy it on uscivilflags.org or buy it on Amazon. You can get a 5x7, 4x6, 3x5, 2x3, whatever you want. And fly the flag, appeal to heaven underneath it. Actually, you're supposed to fly the flag of the state you was born in if it was a constitutional state before the Civil War. Okay, I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for letting me preach to you once again, try to educate you. That's my mission. And we'll have something for you next Friday. Come back and join us again. Thank you. This is Gary Wayne. Goodbye.